Are there any other general management tips?
You have to be consistent. So it's an investment. It does cost money, and it's not a small investment. So the thing you don't want to do is buy the monitors and then hope and wish that the guys use it. You don't want to just throw them out there and then basically leave it up to the tech to use them as they see to. So you have to put some type of process or procedure in place. For example, when we bought our monitors, we set up a separate email account that all the monitors are connected to. So every time I see a flash report, I know the monitors are being used, and then we get weekly reports that the monitors are being used. They do you no justice. They bring you no revenue. You can't help people if they sit in their trucks and they're not used. So a good process, and then being consistent, making sure that it is a requirement that you use the monitors. Every single call, this monitor gets plugged up, and it's actually helped to slow our techs down. Maybe it's a quick and easy service call. They're in and out. We don't want in and out. We want you to go in and spend time with that customer. So that monitor, you have to wait for it to flash. So the techs are there longer looking at stuff. So just having processes and procedures in place to enforce consistency is key. If you don't have that, then you're gonna not be happy with the investment you made.
Yeah, you mentioned the weekly report. Is that built into a processy from the management side?
Yep, yeah. Every time the report comes out, we look. But I even have a step further. They have a detailed checklist in our CRM that they have to click and basically attest that they plugged in a monitor. They can't close that job out unless they have a flash report. And then if they, excuse me, if they get done with a job and they're debriefing with the office manager or dispatcher to tell them how the job went, one of the questions for the dispatchers to see if that monitor was plugged up and if there's a flash report. So it's no way out of it. They have to get that flash report done in order to move along.
What about specifically for the managers? Doesn't have to be about consistency, but
Mm.
what's a core value or the number one best practice for a manager who wants to add IAQ into a company that hasn't focused on it in the past?
Set up some KPIs. We don't we we made the procedures for them to use the monitors, but one of the things we were interested in is looking at the IAQ sales grow. That's the point. You want them to grow. I wanted them to grow more than what the monitors cost. So looking at IAQ sales, but then also it justifies your professionalism. So when we're out with a customer, we're making an expensive repair and they got a complimentary report. So we've seen less price objections, which is nice. Almost immediately, we have a set of a tech coming in and out, repairing something quick and leaving. He has he or she has a flash report to discuss with the customer, and they are identifying problems that they didn't know. And even if the customer didn't directly solve them, they're now aware and they'll call us back in the future once they do get more funding or better position for financing. The one of the key KPIs was IAQ sales, and we classify those as aerosol duct cleaning, aerosol duct sealing. We're looking at humidifier sales. We're looking at air purifier sales. Did those increase? We've done a lot more MERV 13 and MERV 16 air media filter cabinets than we've ever done. As a matter of fact, we sell one just about on every single install we do now, which was kind of driven by the IAQ sales. The KPIs you got to track to see if it's actually being beneficial for you.
If at a technician level, what if they're using it and they feel like they're still not hitting the KPIs? What sort of suggestion would you give them?
Retraining, if you got an unperforming tech, retraining, and then also maybe having yourself or maybe a service manager with that tech to see exactly what goes on and doing that in a way where the tech doesn't feel like they're being bird dog or hovered over, but basically just a tune up just to making sure they got all their processes down. You're doing that to support the tech because That successful tech is going to make the company successful.
Have you had any experiences like that? Can you tell us a story that does with an assumed name?
Yep. We'll call him Stan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stan, really shy tech, really, really shy, really resistant to having conversation with big dollars on it. Super smart tech, one of my smartest techs, but resistant. He did not like having a conversation when you're talking you several $1,000s or sometimes tens of thousands of dollars with a customer. And we wrote with him to basically understand, okay, what's your process? How are you using the reports? How are you driving that conversation and stuff like that? And once we did that and we gave him some tweaking and some additional training, it did improve. It did improve.
So again, it sounds like getting out in the field with folks, and yeah, certainly that's been my experience too. Getting your eyes out there and being present out there. It's really difficult to run a field based, a frontline business from behind the lines. You know,
Hmm. Yep. 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 You want to see the people. You got to see the people.
And I think the big takeaway is that what Brynn's describing is that there was an individual deficiency or habits that weren't helping this guy out or your customers out, and it's management and a well managed team in the long run that wins.
Hmm.
It's not about I've got to hire this superior tech that's amazing to make this work. I have to have a guy that's trainable and that's willing to
Hmm.
learn. But it's if you don't have that management in place that is watching closely and setting up those KPIs, then you're a ship in the fog. And
Yep.
yeah, I think it's the bigger picture is the management.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
So
Mhm.
if you were speaking to a small group of managers that are owners, managers that are new with their advice, what kind of guidance would you want to offer if they just got their equipment, it just landed, they're scheduling some training, anything you'd want to tell those people?
Before you get rolling, have your solutions hashed out, like ERVs. We didn't put in a ton before we started using AirAdvice. And once we started using AirAdvice and it started to drive the conversation for ERV, so you want to have your process down to resolve the customer's problems that the report points out. So I'll tell you specifically what I did. We end up partnering with a ERV brand and we had them come out right after we had Jay come out and train us on the monitors. And we had a process on which ERV we were going to pick, how we're going to maintain it, how we're going to install it, we're going to standardize it. So I would say the best advice is to have the products that you know work in your process ready to go. So that way, when a customer says, yes, I want to take care of it, you know exactly what to do. You can get rolling.
what about other solutions or customizations? Are you pretty streamlined
Mhm.
with everything?
Yep. AeroSeal was another one. We were AeroSeal dealer and we were having trouble selling AeroSeal, but what kind of helped drive more conversations was the air monitoring report, the flash report. It was tough to get a customer to conceptualize why AeroSeal is necessary. But then if I can identify high particles or maybe even do a physical assessment and show the customer the inside of their blower motor or the inside of their return, the report helped us to talk about the conversation that, hey, if you get your ducts repaired, these numbers will improve. So that was one of the things that we did. Also, another thing we did often that we do now, MERV 16,
Yeah.
we we've gotten to duct modifications where we made the ductwork larger, especially with heat pumps. The heat pump incentives that's going on now. Once we design a duct properly, we'll put a MERV 16 filter in there, and we can explain that, hey, this is going to reduce those particles, and even charcoal, even maybe some VOC problems. We've been using that to resolve it. To Jeff's question, your question, we had to have all that kind of ready to go. What we were going to sell, what we were going to use, and then did it work? There's a lot of IAQ products that are out that may not deliver what they claim, so we had to make sure that we were delivering things that actually work.
Very cool.